Oops. Uh-oh. Hold on. Oh, there it is. It's where it needs to be. Make sure I'm plugged in. Hey, everybody. How are you? I am Dr. Torri J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And I got something really good for you guys tonight. He's not on yet, but I know he's coming. We're going to talk about where we left off last week. Hi, my husband. How are you? We're going to leave off, and I have to reveal some things to you guys because last week was a doozy. I got to tell you, last week was tough for me because there was things that were bubbling up. Maybe you knew it or you didn't know it, that I was experiencing in the midst of the live. And I want to share about that even as we're waiting for a therapist, counselor. I'll call him mental health counselor. That's his title. James Winfrey to get on here. I want to talk to you a little bit about who he is based on just knowing him. Oh, he's jumping on now. He's suited and booted always. Hold on. I want to talk to some people. Hey, Dr. James Winfrey, how are you?
Hey, Dr. Torri, how are you, ma'am?
You're muted or something. Your mic, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
I can, yes, ma'am.
I can hear you. How are you? Hold on. Yep.
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I knew you were going to be suited. This man is always in a suit, y'all. So I want to share a couple of things. Give me a second, Dr. Winfrey, to share what I need to share with them, because last week I started this journey, and I do Healing Tuesday every Tuesday night. We're going to do some homework. We're going to kind of cover a couple of things before you and I get into this conversation. Last week we started this conversation of, from the inside out and the inner me. And while I was on last week, towards the end, the inner me was getting some issues coming up. Y'all wanted to talk about sex, and I couldn't realize why I couldn't have that conversation with you. But I want as much as I can reveal, because I'm going to respect my husband in this process. As I got off of here, I went into the room and I began to cry. I even told Nydia, who will jump on here in a moment if she's not already on here, I want to take it down. I told my husband I want to take it down because I was crying. And I want to reveal to you guys what I got from it. And what I got from it was I was having a breakdown so I could have a breakthrough in that moment. There are things that happen sometimes in marriage that you can't control. And there was a situation where I have had to bury my woman to survive in my marriage. And we've had some challenges, as marriages do. And realizing that after I cried, after getting off of here, and it's why I couldn't access the conversation with him, I got to have my own inner me moment while on the live, Dr. Winfrey. That was not what I was planning, but God will set you up, right? Mm-hmm. And before I got out of the room and I was crying, I heard God clearly speak. He said, you've buried the woman in you to survive aspects of your marriage that you're dealing with right now. Mm-hmm. And so I am transparent and candid on here, just so you can see. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to work through that stuff. But I needed to tell y'all that's what was happening last week. And I hope that many of you got your same breakthrough. I hope you guys were able to see the links of the journaling and things that you were supposed to do. I didn't get any responses from it, so we'll see what happens. But I'm grateful to be able to have this conversation tonight. This is not just for women. This conversation is for men as well. For me, it was sparked out of seeing different comments based on the Jada and Will thing. But I'm not going to talk about them in that way because I realized that there was a friend who posted that she was looking for anything and anyone to heal her brokenness. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us do that through sex. And I couldn't access that. I've been a good girl a long time. And then I couldn't access that beyond some of my own brokenness that I'm enduring in this time. And men, you guys need to tune in. This is a powerful man. He has powerful conversations, right? And so he teaches, the stuff I see him post is factual. I met Dr. Winfrey because he had an attorney that we were close with, and he fought, and many of you have gone through that same thing, and he fought and he got full custody of his sons. And so he's been raising his sons in a way that is admirable and is something I get to see on social media, and I love to see it. So we'll kind of talk about that to some degree, because there was some inner healing, I'm sure, as a man, that you had to deal with to even get to that point. And then I want to ask you some of the questions I sent you earlier. Just how do we do this? How do we get to it? So just for my audience, my people, and look, I see Ryan says watch party on TUF, which is the unmarried father. So whenever he does that, we can have 4,000 people on here, Dr. Winfrey. So, okay, so just know it may say a number, but when Ryan does that, and plus we have a decent following, the numbers are kind of crazy, but people will chime in who are authentic and genuine. So let's get into this, because this is Healing Tuesday. Healing Tuesday is about connecting the dots to our pain. Healing Tuesday is about a lot of fatherless individuals who are adults now. I kept recognizing that they were still struggling in these co-parenting situations even after I reunited them, but it had nothing to do with the situation they were in. It had everything to do with them going back into their fatherlessness and dealing with it. And that's what I saw in Jada. So that's why I wanted to have that part of the conversation. I want to know the question that I sent to you earlier. The first question I want to know is, what does healing your own brokenness look like? Like, where does this start and what does it look like? Because I don't think so many deny it. And so they don't know what it looks like. So can you help us with that as well?
Healing your own brokenness is when you take responsibility for the state that you're in. And when you take responsibility for the state that you're in, you really become a one-person healing operation as far as what you can do on earth. Of course, we want to always incorporate the Most High, but it's when we take responsibility for the erosion in the debilitative state that we're in. Recognizing that the quality of life that we have in our relationships, if we always feel as if there's something missing, and wanting to have what I call the adult conversation, as far as channeling internally, a lot of times what we do externally, having those alone moments to say, why is it that I feel what I feel, and where did that come from? And not just asking the question, Dr. Torri, but experiencing every single emotion that comes with that in order to give that authenticity and to give it a groundwork and a framework to start to rebuild the house of who you are.
Wow. Okay. Moments. Asking why, and then where does it come from, and then experiencing it all at the same time.
Yes.
That's what people are going to run from. That's what people run from, Dr. Winfrey. That's what they run from. They get busy. They get new relationships. They do all of those things to avoid this moment that you're referring to. How do people get past that feeling you get? I've done this before. I've done this work quite often, but I had to do this work completely years ago. This feels like fire. This feels like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this feels like very uncomfortable. Hey, Nydia, this feels like something that you don't want to enter into. How do people break past that part? Because I think if you break past that part, you can kind of make it to the other parts. Yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of, I kind of base that off of something that you'll hear a lot of in substance abuse when everybody talks about the rock bottom terminology. Everybody's rock bottom is different. And so it has to be that, what I call in my practice, that operational and defining moment. When you look at everything and when it is mounted so heavily that the pain becomes a purification process. Because the beautiful part of facing this dynamic that we feel as a result of going through that fire is, once we feel it one time, the awareness that comes from that, it points us in a different direction, because at that point we have connected feelings with a state of being and a state of functioning. So we know when we feel this is a place that I don't ever want to be again. And so I'll do anything to avoid it in a healthy way. But there's a purification in that pain that it has to be embraced. Kind of like saying, if you choose to go through a certain surgical procedure, something that's painful, but it brings life. And a lot of times what happens, exactly what you said, we use sex and substances as a distraction, because in the moment, in those moments, it centralizes feelings that allows us to detour certain experiences. But when that feeling is gone, we're right back in that sunken place again, because we didn't want to embrace it, because we want to avoid it and remix it. So no matter how many times you remix it, the lyrics are still going to be the same because the song is the same.
Wow. Sex and substances are a distraction,
Mm-hmm.
and a detour.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta look, Nydia. Like, I'm calling her out but it's not that she was doing it, but I'm like, I know her brain is over there like. I've been doing this for about a year now, so I got my key people.
Mm-hmm.
You said, okay, pain becomes the purification process, like surgery,
Mm-hmm.
right? We go through surgery. We know the aches and pains are our healing.
Mm-hmm.
I need people to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Pain is the purification process,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
mm-hmm.
That's a message in itself. And if we avoid the pain, if we avoid looking at the trauma, then we won't get through the process, and we wonder why we keep repeating the cycles. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly. We'll never have the answers because we're avoiding the process. Think of any procedure you may go through. Let's say at this point in life, we're looking at say something as invasive as being a male. If I feel that there's some type of pain somewhere, and I'm making all the excuses because I don't want to go to the one individual that can give me an answer. And a lot of times we don't want answers, because when we don't have answers, it justifies us being how we are.
Ooh.
And so if I go around with the pain that's debilitating, I have this pain in my stomach and my back, and I'm taking over-the-counter medications because all it does is numb it and give me the illusion of something being healed, only knowing that that pain is going to come back because I don't want to take the time or make the investment. Some people won't even, as I like to say, some people won't even pay a copay for their own healing, even though they have a policy that covers it. The policy of forgiveness, the policy of self-revelation. You have a policy based on the fact that you're a human being that has God's DNA in you. You won't even apply the necessary coverage that you already have through fellowship of others, through resources. You won't even make a $25 emotional investment in something that you have a $100,000 coverage on. And you continue to stay in that state by choice because it justifies you being how you are with other people, because you simply don't want to go through the invasive process that will give you the answers. And so we continue to not only function that way, but then we are attracted to people that have the same pain. So our conversations are the same. We're talking about things that are debilitating because we all have been debilitated. So that's all my conversation is about. I'm not looking for a release. I'm really looking for a regurgitation of my pain, which keeps me where I am for years and years and years until I look up one day and I wasted a whole life theorizing what I could have been because I didn't choose to become that.
Man. Look. Oh my God. Look, even Apostle Blackwell was like, talk. Okay, she gave you one word, talk. Nydia said, hey girl, because I know she watched. Look, you are saying, oh my Lord Jesus, you won't pay a copay for your own healing, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. This is a message many of us need to hear. We won't ask the right people the hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that I got to heal was I was able to ask my mother the hard questions.
Yes.
It didn't matter. I wasn't being disrespectful. It was for me and my healing. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't going to go to her in a way that was going to be disrespectful, but I knew I needed to go to her. And a lot of us don't go to our own mothers. We won't go to our own mothers. And then on top of that, when we are able to talk to our fathers, we won't even talk to them.
Right.
And there's a way that you approach this. And it's not what all of this it's not all of that. It is a mature adult conversation of the pain. Because as I posted the other day, a lot of our fathers, and I won't say a lot, I said some of our fathers were not able to stay because they were abandoned too.
Exactly.
And if that's the case, then how then do we break the cycle? So I want to ask you, where do most people get stuck in this journey? I know I kind of asked that a minute ago, but what's the sticking point for most people that you've worked with? Where do they get stuck?
Well, the unique thing about that, Dr. Torri, is that people get stuck at different places. Some people get stuck at the anticipation of what they can find out. Some people get stuck at when there's confirmation of what they already spiritually and emotionally know. Some people get stuck at once you know, now you have responsibility to change, and they don't want to do the work of change, so they get stuck there. A lot of times how I can gauge when a person gets stuck is when they start to recycle the same answers. That's how you always know when a person's stuck. If you listen to anybody, and I know with your audience, the people that you talk to, you can always tell when a person is limited in a dynamic because there's no evolution in their answer. There's no self-insight. When there's no self-insight, there's no self-growth. And so that's always indicative of where a person is stuck at. And when we just kind of park it there and break that down and start to process that, then at that point, it's taking those same bricks that were thrown at them and saying, well, let's build a brick home now, a foundation that's established by what you choose to make it. A lot of times when we're talking about our parents, fathers, mothers, and all our relationships, I tell people all the time, if you want to move from a state of brokenness to healing, you have to stop looking at people as far as their titles and look at them as human beings. Because when you look at individuals as mom and dad, you have a natural indication to have this expectation of what you think they should be. And when you have this expectation of what you think they should be based on titles, then you've robbed them of their own journey, and you've robbed yourself of the opportunity to have a front row seat to see exactly where things went off track. But when you look at the individual by name, or as I like to say for me in my own life, the way I was able to get to a place of wholeness with my mother, and this is something that I share with my patients, I'm very transparent. When I stopped looking at my mom as my mother and looked at her as Nina, then I was able to see it made everything so much clearer. Some of the things that were hurtful to me, it made sense because my expectation of who I thought she should have been was not reflective of where she had been. And when I saw that, it made so much make sense as far as her decisions, the things she did. And then at that point, Dr. Torri, what happens is what is then hurtful, it breeds a spirit of compassion. Now it's like, man, I understand now. And because I understand, I now have the ability and the weaponry to not become what you were to me while still being able to gauge where you and I at our best. I think every relationship that we have, we should look at, and again, this requires difficult work. Where can you and I be at our absolute best? And if you and I being at our absolute best means that we might have to be limited in our interaction, that may mean that my expectation of you, I have to change and modify that. And I have to ask for forgiveness for even having an expectation of you. I didn't give you a say in the role that you were going to have in my life. An example that I can apply that to in my marriage. One of the things that I learned from my past life journeys was you have to ask people what role do they want to play in your life. You have to give them a voice in the state that they have in your life. And the one thing that I did with my wife, LaToya, was I asked her, what role do you want to play as relates to my boys and I? Because that way, which is why we have a great loving relationship, is because I gave her a voice in terms of tell me what to expect from you. And because she told me what to expect, there are no surprises because it's based on what her life journey has been. And because of what her life journey has been, I see it demonstrated in her life. And so there's no expectations, it's just truth. But the requirements of being able to free from past fears, but then also learning from our relationships. What did I learn from these series of relationships that can help me right here so that I don't enter into those same dynamics? So it's just so many dynamics of when we start the healing,
yes,
it naturally sends out a frequency that other people that want to be healed, even if they don't verbalize it, the frequency is sent, and then people start to respond either in the temporal, fleshly regard or in the spiritual. But you're going to get an answer out when you send that SOS of healing out.
I'm gonna show you something. They were like, Nydia was like, wow. Apostle Blackwell said, I'm gonna use this. Where do I send the offering? Nydia says, when you keep talking about it, but don't put in the work. Okay. Then we got a couple of other things. I like the fact that you're talking about mothers. Sarah says, this is how I was with my mom. I hit a point where I just accepted her where she is. This is something I talk about with people all the time. I said it on our page yesterday. You have to find a place of compassion. And people were like, no, I don't. I don't want to journey that with him, and I'm healed already. Well, in saying that, I know you're not healed, because you only can see your father as a father and not a man. And you only see your mother as mom and not the woman that she is. And the moment you can access who they are as humans, you are able to move forward with compassion. Without compassion, there is no forgiveness. Exactly. It is one of the cornerstone pieces to this thing. And I'm floored, because even Nydia said, weren't we talking about this 2 weeks ago? It's intended to hone in and lock in where a lot of people are still struggling. Even Apostle Blackwell said, yeah, people don't, she said, no evolution. She said, he needs to be on the platform. I'll let her circle back and tell you about that in a minute. I'll let her contact you about that. I'll do an introduction if need be. But I want to go someplace, because I know you from your fight a little bit with your sons. And a lot of men on my platform, especially watching from TUF, that's the unmarried father. They are stuck. They're fighting for their children. They're alienated. And now you want to talk to them about healing when they're still stuck in the court battle and they can't see their children. Dr. Winfrey, how do we get people from that place to even going into a new place of dating and loving again and all of that? That's where a lot of these men are stuck. And I know you've been through this. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I got to see the end part of where you were. And I got to see the picture that went up. So help some men understand that phase of the journey, I guess.
Okay. The first thing that's critical for a man is to take action. And I think a lot of times, and I say this to my wife a lot, us as men, we are at a disadvantage, because unlike, you all as our sisters, you all are going to see positive female influences. Even if you don't have it in your life, you're going to see some positive female that looks like you. Guaranteed. But us as men, we're just feeling around in the dark because of either the lack of presence by our fathers or the lack of impact with our fathers being there, either being passive, and we're just indoctrinated with things that we see. So we're trying to figure out manhood, first of all, on our own, which is the first stumbling block to get by. But what you learn from that is being a man of action and being very transparent with your feelings. The thing with me with both my boys, because both my boys had a different dynamic where, as a man, I had to be honest with myself. And this is what I would tell all the brothers that are watching. You have to be honest about the man that you are and the man that you desire to be. I knew with my firstborn that I could be a better father to him and not marry his mother. I knew that. And I was honest about that. And I didn't know it was not part of my life plan per se for that situation to happen the way that it did. But I had to be honest with myself. And once I was honest with myself, it gave me the mindset to see exactly what my rights were and what I could do. And the more that I took the initiative to just educate myself in a process that everybody, Dr. Torri, told me I was going to lose. I had police officers told me I was going to lose. When I would go into the court building, when they would ask you to move to the left if you were the defendant, and I would stay to the right because I was the plaintiff, they would address me as if I didn't hear them and I was being opposition. I said, no, sir, I'm the plaintiff. And so I was an anomaly. I was in a foreign land, but I knew that as a father, I needed to write the story and tell the narrative for my son from the first opportunity that I got a chance, meaning that Going through the court system, I had to dispel all the myths and say that if my heart's in a genuine place, no court is going to deny me if I am willing to run the race. And I had to be honest about what is it that I'm wanting. I wanted to legitimize my son and to ensure that he knows that I've been a presence since day one. And because my heart was in the right place, I believe that God matched that and matched those efforts. Now, going through that process, what I'm very transparent about with men is that there were a lot of emotions that I felt. The betrayal that I experienced. I had family members that came in on the other side of the courtroom. So I saw it all. But what I was refusing to do was let that take my mind off of what the goal was, which is to ensure that I had a lineage that my son could see that I fought for you. And here's the evidence of it. So no matter what somebody may say, here's the evidence of everything that I had done, which is why I didn't have an issue with child support initially when he was with his mother, because that was evidence. Can no one ever say that I didn't take care of you? But because of that, and going through that process, what I learned in my first marriage versus my second was taking responsibility for the assumption. I assumed in my first marriage that because she had children, that she would naturally love mine. And that wasn't the case. And when I stopped blaming everybody else and I looked at myself and said, well, Doc, you didn't have a conversation. You didn't ask, is this something that you want to do? And I learned from that, meaning that I was verbalizing. I assumed that who I was as a father would be just the general consensus. And a lot of times people will have you in their life knowing that you are a blessing and a covering and a benefit to them, knowing that they have no intention of giving you that in return. And what we do as human beings and us good men to fight the good fight, we'll stay to try to prove a point so that we don't end up with the same reputation of fear that our fathers had. So trusting the legal process and being committed to it, the ups and downs, and actually backing up what I felt. I tell fathers all the time, if you can buy season tickets to see your favorite professional team play, you just put money down on an attorney. It's a simple process. It's not as complicated as we think it is, but a lot of times it's the fear and the anxiety of the unknown. And that's why it's important for fathers to understand that you do have rights in most courts. If you stay the course, not saying it's going to be perfect, but if you stay the course, you will have legal rights that will be given to you to simply do what you want to do, which is to be a father to your child. And that's how, and that first experience prepared me for my second one with my baby boy, and learning how to navigate through and having the evidence that if I had primary custody of my first one, then that second one, I've proven myself to be the man that I say that I am, regardless of what the criticism may be. In the relationship that I have with my sons, nobody can counter that because of what they've seen. So what I would say, if nothing else for these brothers to take, is to make sure that you're the kind of man that even if somebody is critical of you to your children, who you have shown them to be counts as what somebody could possibly say about you.
And I believe that's key, because there's a lot of men who are probably upset because you done talked about some attorneys and money, and they're like, I'm all tapped out. I know men who paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and they still don't have access. Mom's playing these games. Mm-hmm. That happened. It didn't happen in Dr. Winfrey's case because I know his attorney. He don't want in. She is truly trademarked the pit bull, like in a skirt. So there is, and it's not about aggression in that way. It's about she knows her stuff and she's not a game player. But there's some men who are struggling with that. But when you say you have to show them who you are, I need dads to hear that because they don't see them, or the children have a negative response to them. They feel like the children don't know who they are. It doesn't mean that. It just means they're battling with a lot of the psychological warfare that they dealt with from the other side. But it doesn't mean that if you've ever shown them who you are, that some of the stuff they said, they believe it. Struggling with it. So the rejection, the pause you get from them is the struggle. It's not the disbelief that you're an amazing father. And I just need men to understand that, because they want to see their kids, they're crying, they have lot of things going on, Dr. Winfrey, and I can tell you.
Well, you know,
that their children remember is what it is.
Well, you know, Dr. Torri, what I want to say to that, which is very important for brothers that are in those situations, what I do is I personally do this whenever my boys are away from me for an extended period of time, now that they're older. And what I tell other men to do is I always say, send the blessing, meaning that the love that you have can be sent and communicated to them, and trusting that literally angels will take that and deposit that into them. And just love them. Even if you can't send them, even if you can't see them, just loving them, praying for them, doing everything you can in that absence, because that energy is felt. That is a genuine thing that's felt. And when you just love them, and when they do come in your presence, and when you can eventually, even if they're an adult, when that time comes that they can make that decision, and you can present, even when I couldn't see you, I put aside this much for you. This is yours. So saying that even when I couldn't take you to your football games, but I saved this for you so that you have an inheritance, because I knew that the day would come, and I wanted to be able to give you something to show my emotional and my sweat equity that I have for you as my child.
Yeah, because some of that can even be in letters. I know a guy who sends emails to himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks he wants to say to his children. Look, he got his Alabama cup, y'all. He flexing. And my husband is on here, babe. He's the other one. I'm just saying. I just had to get through that Alabama cup up there real quick. But that look, this is where some men really need to tap into their healing. This is the point right here. And if you don't, you're going to stay stuck in that cycle and that constant conversation that you're having with yourself that you just can't get out of. We call it the crazy talk, right? The rat race, self-talk. You're not going to be able to get out of it, but you have to use this moment to heal and take that responsibility. And the confirmation that he was even talking about, the confirmation many men need to just, I had confirmation that she wasn't the one. I know many of men, if I get to talk to their moms, like one guy today, his mom is a part of our dialogue. Even though it's like, yeah, I told him that wasn't the girl for him. I know sometimes we don't want to listen, but sometimes that's part of the ownership you got to take, that everyone around you was like, women, we have to take the same ownership. That the men that we've gotten involved with and we have children with and we've got animosity towards, we attracted him because because of our own hurt, but people told us, no, don't talk to him. No, he's bad business. How then, because now we get into how we made these children, right? This is the sex part. Some of us did it out of comfort and looking for love, and men were looking for relief. How can we stop the sex cycle when it comes to our trauma? Because there are people on here who still have that desire sexually. They think, because it's a pattern, it's a habit. So I now, because I'm hurt and the trauma's coming up, I make a phone call. I slide into a DM. I send a text. How now do we get off this cycle of using sex as a way to distract ourselves and to fill a void that can never be filled except doing the work?
Well, the way that's done, Dr. Torri, is really, it's a toss-up, because it comes down to a person making a decision about the quality of their life. Some people are completely okay with being detoured and distracted for the rest of their life. They're okay with that. And when those individuals are in our circles, we have to accept them for being in that place, but then we also have to distance ourselves, because we don't want that to become our normal or to become our accepted. But if individuals have a considerable support system, people that love them enough to say, how many times have you ended up in this very situation? Just sometimes we need people to ask the questions that we already are asking ourselves. We just need to hear it so that we can answer it and just be able to hear it out loud. Yeah. But the way that cycle is stopped is the individual seeing the demise that cycle is causing them to experience, and just really being able to look and say, you know, after I experience this, then what? That's something that I say to men that I work with. I say it in a much more off-camera way for men to understand the content of what I'm saying. But I say after you go through this whole pursuit, and after you go through this ritual, because that is a physical ritual, all for a 5 to 7 second episode, then what? When I just put that in the air, and you see the pausing of I don't have an answer for that. And understanding that this pattern impacts your spirituality. And if you have children, it impacts your ability to show yourself to be stable. Are you bringing different people around your children? So all these are the questions that they start being able to see how it's all interrelated, because you want to be distracted. And then I also bring up the concept of time. How much time have we wasted? If you have the same dating patterns you had when you was in your early 20s and you're in your 40s now, then you're going to get what you got in your 20s. And as you get older and the circle starts to change, then there's a really sense of self-loss, because society is expecting you to be at a different place. That's why the older woman that tries to dress like her daughter, you can always tell where the breakdown is. Or the older guy is always trying to mess with the younger girl. You can always tell where the growth stopped, because they're still addressing that dynamic, because they simply want to be in that place. So it's really a toss-up, Dr. Torri, to see do they want to break the cycle? If they do, the discomfort of being in that place starts to open it up to where we can look at what's at the core. But if they want to stay there, then we have to respect their right to stay there, but also distance ourselves, because we don't even want to be a co-signer on that in any capacity.
Look, what I heard when you were talking is babies from distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us as human beings became parents from the distracted booty. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You called somebody, you didn't know their parenting style. You didn't even know if they wanted to be a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got distracted, and before you know it, now you have a child with this person that you now have to navigate the rest of your natural life with. Because we always say 18. Dr. Winfrey, you know it's not 18. I have a bonus daughter. She is 24. She is not gone. She's not going anywhere, though. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't look for her. We got married when she was 18, so I wasn't expecting her to leave. But people are like this. She graduated college. She'll get married. She'll become a mother. You will have to interact with this person for the rest of your life. And you created a child from distraction. And now you're sticking this child into this same cycle. How do we as individuals, and I want you guys, I'm going to put this question up here that I put on here earlier, because I want people to answer. How have you guys healed your own brokenness while Dr. Winfrey and I are still having this part of the conversation? I want you guys to chime in and tell me, how have you started healing some of your own brokenness? And what are you getting out of this? What questions do you have for Dr. Winfrey? I want to, because scripture, they know I'm going to always go scripture. I'm always asking scripture to it. God's word is clear that he promised that he would heal our brokenness. He promised that he would wipe our tears away. He promised us wholeness. He didn't promise us that we wouldn't be broken. He promised that he would ensure that we would be whole. And a lot of us are skirting this healing and getting what we need. Because, look, at the end of the day, for me, how I walk through this healing process is with him by my side. With him in the valley with me. With him walking through and pointing out the areas in me. Maybe you can help some people understand how they can hear what their body needs, because they don't know. I'm going to tell you right now, we've had the conversation, and I've tried to bring therapists. I've had other therapists on, but something you even touched on that I think needs to be reiterated before I even ask that question. Dr. Winfrey broke down that you need to have the right people around you. Therapist Matthew Volker came on. He talked about how you have to build the right team. The team for women is an OBGYN. It's a mental health expert. It's a coach. It's positive friends who won't let you get away with things. That's your team. Men, it's a urologist. It's you know what I'm saying? Doctor, because what we have to recognize is this stuff comes out in disease, illness, sickness, all of these other things. So you have to have the right people in place. And men and women, that's what we're talking about. Dr. Winfrey is reiterating that even on here tonight. You have to put yourself in a position where you build the right team. So I want to ask that question though. How do we hear what we need? Is it through a therapist? Is that the best route to go? Or how do we even get to because some people aren't going to no therapists.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get to the place where we can hear that and we know what we need?
I think that hearing what you need comes from looking at what you do to pursue. What is it that you're pursuing? Like, if we're getting involved in relationships, being able to say, what is it about that person that is leading me to not be attracted to them, but really it's the idea of them that I'm attracted to, because I don't know them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know them. I'm attracted to the idea. So now that we're talking about the idea of a person, now we can look at the abstracts of our emotions in terms of saying, okay, well, is it that I want to be with this person because I have a fear of being alone? Or utilizing, without going into detail, the Jada and Will dynamic. Do I have a need for, as I like to say, do I always have to have a project that I'm working on as far as other people? People that are more broken than me that distracts me. Again, it's distraction. Distracts me from my own brokenness. But then in a way, I maintain a sense of superiority because I'm less broken than you are. So therefore, you see me as the authority figure. So I can exert a power over someone else that I don't even have the ability to exert over myself until I can't contain all of the factors, and then the situation blows out of hand, and then I avoid it. So now I seek a different relationship to end up doing the same thing. So we have to look at what is it that we're pursuing, because what you're pursuing is always indicative of what it is that you're needing on the inside. And that pursuit is always going to be part of where our hurt or our healing will originate from, depending on which side it is that I'm choosing. Understanding that who I'm assembling in my life can be really put into two categories: people that will either pull me away from my greatness, or people that will lunge me to it. And I have to choose which side is it that I want to be on by being aware of what it is that I'm experiencing. Not what I'm necessarily lacking, because people will try to avoid that. But what is it that I'm going for in spending the night with different individuals, not being able to communicate my words, but taking out my feelings through being sexually involved with other people? What is that about? Why do I keep doing that? And what is it that leads me back to that over and over and over and over again? So it's always going to point back for me, Dr. Torri, that self-examination. If you don't examine yourself, you're going to be naked for the whole universe.
And you really get stripped naked when you get married.
Yes.
The stuff you thought you were keeping from, or you thought you was hiding real good so they didn't see it, that stuff gets all revealed.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. And there's nothing you can hide. There's no place to cover yourself. Nydia says, let me see. She says, I've been going to a therapist for years, and I'm now working more on my spirituality for myself, because that's one of the key places. And I know some people go, oh, they talking about religion. No, we're not. No, I'm gonna leave it just at that. Nydia says, yes, it's hard realizing that you were in love with the idea of a person, not so much in love with the person. Mm-hmm. It goes into something you said a moment ago during not this past conversation, but the one right before that segment before, where you said you stay to prove a point. You stay to prove that you're not your father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of men and women do that. They want to prove that they're not, that they're lovable. The women will stay to prove, I deserve to be married. I'm lovable. Mm-hmm. And then the men will stay to prove that they're not their father. And before you know it, you're in a toxic, destructive pattern in a relationship that you were only drawn to because you were stuck in Arrested Development. You said that earlier about where you dressing like the little girl and you dressing like the little boy. You were stuck in a place where you attracted the parent that you hadn't even healed or resolved the issue with, right? Mm-hmm. How do we, because this is what's got us in these sexual cycles. This is what's got us here. And I don't want to make this all, but they were like, no, we want to talk about sex. Like they told me last week, we want to talk about sex. So we got 15 minutes. I want y'all to ask some questions seriously, because, and Nydia made some statements, but You have access to Dr. Winfrey right now. Men, you might want to chime in and ask some questions while he's on here. I want to, when we heard the moment with Will and Jada, I want to pick this moment out because I don't care about the rest of it. Mm-hmm. When she said, I even wrote it down. I was like, whoa. When she said he really needed healing and it felt good to heal somebody. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, but you broke him, because I heard his interview. Mm-hmm. And then she said, but she had gotten her healing through the situation while she broke him. How often do we do that when we have sex with people out of distraction?
Oh, we do that every time. It's not from a pure place. That's just recycled brokenness. Because when we look at really what God created sex to be, I'm not touching religion. I'm just saying spirituality.
Yeah.
When you look at what He created it to be and how we have abused that, we have watered that down, and so something that was meant to truly be a transferring of spirits has become really like a casual outing. It's a casual thing. So you take something that was meant to be one of the most intimate dynamics and you make it so randomly accessible. And now you act as if you don't understand the confusion that comes mentally and emotionally, no matter how you try to define it, which is why it was interesting how Jada utilized that word, because that was a way of being able to say it without saying it.
Yes.
And being able to say it in a way that I'm acknowledging, but I'm not owning. I'm not owning. And a lot of times, that's what sex is. It's acknowledging that it exists, but I'm not owning the responsibility that comes with being disciplined emotionally, disciplined spiritually, and being able to show the discipline that I need to have that shows that I'm emotionally prepared and mature enough to have the relationships that will actually be beneficial to my overall development. So I don't have the emotional maturity. I have the age to say that I can make this decision, but I don't have the emotional maturity to say that I can handle what comes with it.
Yeah. I have a meme, and I've said this on this particular platform many times. Fatherless individuals are highly sexual, rarely intimate. Mm-hmm. Highly sexual, rarely intimate. Mm-hmm. Intimacy is that owning it. Intimacy is that place where you allow people to see into you, and there's a responsibility that comes with that. There's an accountability that comes with that. But the reason we're highly sexual is because we want to get in and get out. We don't want anybody to see our brokenness. And the truth is the right people, I won't even say the right people. People around you can see it.
Right.
You're fooling them. They can see. I call it your slip is hanging. So here, Nydia wants to ask this question. She said, "How do you own it? What does that look like?"
Okay. Ownership is looking at your discipline that you have regarding the pain. Now let's use sex for an example. If I'm randomly engaging in something that yields me the same result, then I'm an undisciplined single person that's engaging in really a cohabitating physical act. When I own it, ownership when you start to show discipline in that dynamic. Anytime you see a person that's highly sexualized, that is the biggest indication that there's no ownership, because you don't see your own value. You don't see that something that I say as a man and something that I say to men. And I got this out of just my devotion and reading God's word for myself and asking God to show me, what is it that you expect me to do as a man? And one thing that revealed itself to me, Dr. Torri, that was really life-changing for me was when I realized that my seed had value. My seed is not worthless. And there's a biblical account where I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was engaged in a sexual encounter with someone that he took on as his wife, but the Bible spoke of him spilling his seed.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that through spiritual lenses, the spilling of seed for us as men is when you just randomly pass it. But when you know that the lineage of your history and your legacy is in your seed. And when you have that mindset, you become very particular about where that seed is planted.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that discipline, you don't mind just spreading that all over the place. So ownership is synonymous with discipline, meaning that you learn how to discipline your emotions, you learn how to discipline your physical responses. And when you start to discipline, you'll be surprised of the signals and frequency that sends out, because now your relationships are based on a spirit of healing, because you're going to attract people that are going to see that that's not going to be the run of the mill with you. So now we can have different conversations that don't even have to yield in physical interactions, but there's a real spiritual intimacy. What I can say, Dr. Torri, the blessing of my marriage to my wife, she was my 6th grade crush too, so there's a history here. But the blessing behind my marriage is that the intimacy that we had was because we both had a discipline because of our children. She had our girls, and I had my boys, and so the love that we have for our children allowed us to be protective enough to keep the wrong people away, so that God literally tailored us for one another. But I always tell her that I thank God for giving me a second chance to get it right for the first time.
Ooh,
now, that's acknowledging the fact that I had a previous journey, but it's also in the language that we use, Dr. Torri. I would never refer to myself as being divorced. I would never refer to that, because this is my first marriage. So the language that we use starts to change how we start to look at things.
So you got to explain that, because I felt that. I don't say I'm divorced, because I felt that, because this is my first marriage. Now I'm gonna preface this because I need to tell people a little something that I know. So I'm gonna tell you that was Onan and Tamar, though, because I was like, that's Tamar. And God killed that dude. That shows you how serious your sperm is valuable. That if you feel it, God will take you out of here because you don't recognize. So that could be a whole nother series. But that could be an entirely different series you done touched on. But I have watched the moment you got, like, I saw the engagement. I don't remember you showing any dating on there, really. It was here and there. So I like that, because I did the same thing with my husband. I like show his face, but it'd be, people were like, who is that? They couldn't tell. I take a picture of his arm, with the dog. She's dating somebody, but we don't know who. But then you proposed to her. And we've been able to watch this journey with Dr. Winfrey and his now wife on social media in a way that I think is absolutely beautiful. I think it's beautiful how, look, about a month ago, he surprised her with a new Mercedes-Benz. See how they watching. He will buy her shoes, y'all. He can't go to the store like that. He knows what she likes all the way to her shoes. This woman gets some bad heels in the mail. He surprises her with gifts and showers her with love. And I'm assuming because we understand love language, right?
Yes.
We understand love language. And I'm watching you express not only your love language, but also hers. In the midst of gifts.
The thing that I had to do was understand that just because of my decisions of my past, I couldn't blame God for my own choices. And knowing something as pure as love, I had to look and say, you know what, God, I'm not asking you to fix that. I can look at my own pattern and see where I went wrong. I didn't go wrong in my giving. I went wrong and I wasn't the best steward of my giving. And once I realized that, I said, okay, I can't just give to everybody the same way, because my giving to everybody was my way of wanting to make sure that nobody ever felt what I felt. And so once I was able to differentiate and own that and saying, you know what, you just can't give to people. Everybody can't have, I use this medical example. Everybody can't handle the same dosage of you. Yeah. Everybody can't handle you at 100 milligrams. Some people can only handle you at 5. Some people can only handle you at 15. But for me, once I was able to take ownership of it, and again, ownership equals discipline, to not date. And as I tell my wife all the time, I had to prepare the way for her as the queen to enter. And whenever a queen enters the processional, you never see a queen step over anything. You never see a queen have to clear out the throne. Because a lot of times as men, we bring women into our life and there's a mess there. There's something that we're not explaining to them. There's things that we're not telling them. And my thing was, I never wanted anybody to tell my wife something that I didn't tell her from a place of genuine love and transparency. So we had those conversations. We talked and we talked and we talked. And so she taught me her. And something that I asked my wife, and something that we as men should do, I asked my wife, teach me you. Teach me you. Meaning I have to engage in conversation. I listen to her. I pay attention to her breathing pattern. And when she tells me something, I don't tell her what she's feeling is not authentic, because some way or another I contribute it to her feeling that way. And through that discipline and ownership, it teaches me how to engage her. And as a result, it takes us to a level that says that what God put in me was pure, but now I had the frequency that was sent out to someone that God was preparing for me equally through my own situation. And that's what frees you from the pain of the past, is when you can say, everybody in my past was just practice for this performance right here. So a lot of times we give people way too much credit. When you allow somebody to keep you in the real estate of despair and blame and fear, you're literally still in a relationship with them. But when you say, you know what, I own what I did to you, but it came from a pure place, and I'm going to work on being a better steward of that, then at that point, you not only know what to look for to avoid, but you look forward to how to move forward as well. And that was really what really keeps my wife and I joint in the humility of the journey. I tell my wife all the time that I'm thankful that I cry, because I know what life is like without her. So I can cry tears of happiness because I know what it's like to lose you, to not have you. I don't have to lose you to not know what it's like to not have you. Because I came from a place of not having her. So that appreciation and just embracing and changing perspective, to thank God for everything that I had gone through, because it's given me the discipline to really be a godly man, to be a man that really can say that Black love is real, it's authentic, it's one of the most blessed experiences. And if I had not gone through what I went through to get here, I wouldn't be able to appreciate the stewardship that I have in being her covering. So it all comes together if we're willing to do the work and stop blaming people and looking for our past people to come back and authenticate us to be these good people that we believe that we were, or just being able to be okay with how they see us.
Yeah.
How your exes see you, that's okay, because I'm not with you. So it doesn't matter how you feel about me anymore, because what you say is not my truth and my reality for where I am right now, as evidenced by the peaceful bliss that I have as a result of my own work that I did with myself. It's evidenced by the way it manifests itself, not just in the marriage, but also in the lives of our children, also our circle. All of our circle are couples that are trying to not be right, but get it right, because that's the energy that we send out. So you can tell a lot about you based on your circles and their relationships as well.
So let me add this right here, because I want to ask this before we get off of here. When you said, I'm not divorced, this is my first marriage.
Right.
There's a lot in there, Dr. Winfrey. And I just need you to touch on that to help people understand that they can move forward. I am not gonna, Thomas, I appreciate you, love, but we're not going there tonight. We're not going to talk about is there a God or not a God tonight. We just not. We talked about spirituality. So you came in a little late, so we appreciate it, but that's not where we're going. So touch on that before we get off of here, because there are people who are divorced, who have breakups and all of that. There are people who are in marriages, but they don't know that they're actually not in a marriage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Touch on that, how you are divorced, but yet this is your first marriage, or you don't call yourself divorced, but this is your first marriage.
Because I believe that it's the words that you use, Dr. Torri, are very important, because the Bible says it's life and death in the tongue. Now, saying that I don't use the word divorce, I say that I've gone through a dissolution of marriage on paper. I say this is my first marriage because it's everything that, for me, my reference point. Because everything I do, you know how I get there. Everything I do is of God. That's just my reference point. I know that this is a marriage from God, because everything God said that it should be, it is. Everything that it is. So if I've experienced this really for the first time in my life, then can I really say that I was in not so much marital covenant. That's a term that we use in my house, marital covenant. Because marriage has been so watered down at this point. It means so many different things to different people. So you can use that term, but to not replicate the mindset and emotion that comes with the term divorce. It's kind of like how I look at death. I don't say that somebody's death is like when a date comes, it's the anniversary of somebody's death. I say it's the marker of when somebody transitioned. It's a big difference, because a marker is just saying that there's a place that we marked here. Anniversary celebrate life. So a lot of times the words that we say will keep certain spirits and emotions right there in place. So even as we try to move on, we still have that baggage, because you're still thinking, well, I've done this before. One thing that I always tell my wife is, I'm your husband. I have to learn how to function as I can say all day long that I'm a godly husband, I'm a great husband. But if you're the person that says whether that's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I have to learn how to be the best godly husband for you. And the more that you focus on that, you really start to absolve yourself of anything that was ever before that person, because you really wasn't experiencing love and life the way that it was intended for you in the first place. So I just don't believe in claiming that or having people that I work with repeat it. Now you can own it one time to free yourself, but we just not going to regurgitate that every session over and over.
Right.
And over again.
I'm divorced. Someone even had that hello, my name is, and it had divorced, and they were like, we'll put this on and enter a room. Mm-hmm. And I had seen it on Kevin Powell's page the same day they posted it. So I believe that he was announcing that he was divorced, but it was hello, my name is tag divorced. And it was like, I get it, but do you have to announce it to people?
Right.
And take that kind of identity from it, is what you're saying. There's enough trauma in our lives and in our journey that's not something that most of us don't want to go through. And we don't want to take the identity of it in that way.
Exactly.
I am grateful that you came on here, and you look, everybody's like, wow, that's all I'm getting is a lot of wows. I got some messages from YouTube as well as Periscope. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Dr. Winfrey, tell people how they can reach out to you and get your services. I will have him back again, and I'm going to try to get him into the men's room so y'all can have somebody else to bounce some of this stuff off of. But tell people how they can reach out to you for your services.
Okay. Well, I'm on Facebook under Valiant Therapy. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter under Valiant Therapy as well. My website is valianttherapy.com. It tells you a little bit about me, my philosophy towards clinical work, blending the sacred and the secular, my consultative work. You can go to contact there. It comes directly to me. It's not a team of people. I'm a relationship person. I'm a very intimate individual. So whatever you're seeing is going to come to me directly. Right now, because of the COVID-19, I'm still continuing to provide services just through different virtual platforms. So the help is here. The availability is here. However I can be a blessing to anyone in your audience, I welcome that opportunity. And I'm humbled that you thought enough of me, Dr. Torri, after all these years to pull me on and allow me just to connect with your audience. I thank you for that.
Because we connected one time before, and I was so disappointed in the turnout, and I've had to build some things, and I was like, it's Dr. Winfrey I can bring on. I'm always looking for men, Black men, white men, and women. I'm looking for diversity in my conversations. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I think it's Dr. Winfrey. I always check, I hear. And it was perfect timing. And I'm grateful that you were able to have the conversation. You guys, I'm Dr. Torri J. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And I pray tonight we were able to help you connect some of the dots to your own pain. We will see you next Tuesday. All right. Bye-bye.